I don't know. I mean, if I'm honest, to be totally honest, like I'm okay at doing music and sound design stuff. Anything else in life, I am the most hopeless human being you'll ever meet in your life. Trust me. It's quite embarrassing, if I'm honest. Hello, my name is Danny, and I am the composer for the Survivalists. I mean, I guess I'll start from when I was very young. When I was just 3 years old, I was just a normal kid, and my dad came home with a Sega Mega Drive and Sonic the Hedgehog, and I just lost my mind. It kind of started from there. And then I also had a love for making music as just a hobby, as it started out to be. And then I gradually went on to university. I studied music technology at the London College of Music. My first music job was, I used to make music for slot machines for a little company in Birmingham. And then so I was there for about 2 years, and then I managed to land myself at Team 17, where I've been ever since. I've been here now for nearly 3 years. Well, the first trailer I took and reimposed music for as just like a portfolio thing was for Journey, actually, for Austin Wintory's Journey. I'd make some music for it. I'd look at how at certain points in the trailer, if a second character comes in, whether to bring music up or to add more elements into it, and I'd send it to my friends and see how they would respond to it, with like musically trained friends and people who are just, regular friends and family, and I'd just get advice from them and then slowly build and go from there. What I do for every game I've worked on so far is I make these things called rule sets, and they're like guidelines that I've used to make every piece of music follow, and so that it keeps everything refined and the vision for the game is very clear. The first thing I did for Survivalists, obviously, it's set on a deserted island, so I watched the film Castaway.
Well done!
And the key thing I took away from it when watching Castaway was the entire time that Tom Hanks is on that island, there's no music that plays whatsoever. So I wanted to do something similar, but I couldn't just give them like an hour's worth of silence and then call it a day, because that would be like the easiest paycheck I'll ever get. So I thought, right, I've got to make this somewhat interesting. So I ended up making music that's very minimal. And so that was the first rule set of this game. The second one was, I love indie games. I think the reason why I love it so much is the same reason why I love classic video games. And I don't think it's just for nostalgic purposes. You see an indie game, it's got pixel art and it's got a chiptune soundtrack. I don't think it's just that. I think there's more to it. My interpretation, my theory is they're both products of limitation. So take a classic game soundtrack, for example. So say, like I mentioned, Sonic the Hedgehog, Zelda, A Link to the Past, Pokemon Yellow. These all had technical limitations. The hardware that they were working on is nowhere near as good as what we use today. So in order for composers to make something that's going to inspire the player to play their game and to entice them to buy that product, they have to be creative, and they have to think of how they're going to compose the music with those restrictions in mind. And so and as a result of that, it's made these incredibly creative and unique soundtracks. I thought, what if I was to restrict myself in terms of the composition itself? So the notation and the chords. So in the end, every single piece of music in the Survivalists is related to one chord, and it's an F minor seventh. The way that I interpret an F minor seventh is it's a minor and major chord combined and playing at the same time. So it's an F minor and an A flat major playing at the same time. And if you combine those two chords together, it feels like it's neither happy or sad. It kind of sits in the middle a little bit. And what I was trying to say to the player is, yeah, sure, you're on this deserted island. It's not that great, but if you venture out into the island and see what's there, you might find help. You might be able to escape and return home. Rule number 3 is to do with the gameplay mechanics. So if you've played the Survivalists, the game is totally procedural. So whenever you start a new game, the entire map can change its layout, all the labyrinths change how they're laid out. The whole game is uniquely different each time you play a new game, so it's similar to what Minecraft does. So I thought I could do something like a procedural soundtrack in some way. So it's not like it's totally random, but it's like a controlled form of randomness, which I guess is kind of what procedural means in a way. But yeah, and those were the 3 rule sets for the game. I've been doing this for every game that I've worked on so far. So the Overcooked series has its own rule sets, the Worms series has its own rule sets, and so on and so forth. That's kind of how I work. Well, all the composition is done through Reaper, which is a digital audio workstation that I've used on all projects. And the specific instruments I use Massive quite a lot, which is made by Native Instruments. And to be honest, it's quite a complex synth when you start to manipulate all parameters. But for the Survivalists, a lot of the sounds are quite simple to make because the actual style of the music has that 8-bit chiptune style to it. So a lot of the wavetables in it are very simple. It's just square waves, sine waves, and triangle waves. That's all it really is. So the actual tonality of it and making it is very simple. There's that side, which is a tonal side, and then for the percussion, it was all real-world instrumentation, so much more tribal percussion. Probably the most difficult part of this was trying to marinate synthesis with tribal percussion, which is very... when you put it in your head, it doesn't really sound right. I guess it probably would be Sonic, if I'm honest. Just because for me, it's the Holy Grail. It's the biggest and the best of the lot for me. It's the one that kicks it off for me, and I'd love to just go wild with it personally. And the music in the Sonic series is so loud and bright and so full of life. I'd love to do something like that.